So welcome to A Swim UK. My name's Alison Bell for anybody that doesn't know me, and lovely to see you all today, and glad that you're all glad to be back in the pool. So we're going to talk about water safety and awareness of dangers. So today what we're going to explore is perhaps how to blend in the 4 key water safety messages, which is in the Learn to Swim as well as school swimming, but it's mainly, your water safety is mainly on your national curriculum. So we will look at these safety messages. We're going to develop water safety awareness in and around the home. And if any of you deliver the Swim England School Swimming Charter, in the School Swimming Award 3, most of the outcomes that they need to achieve are about water safety awareness. Do they know the dangers? And then we're also going to look at designing some games to learn the beach flags, which again, with the summer coming up, it would be great. Before I kick off, I just want to share a story with you that's happened to me in the last couple of weeks. So I've been helping a local sixth form college to get them to do the National Pool Lifeguards qualification. And the thing that's really scary is, one was the communication for them arriving on my pool side. But when I got them in, I had 5 students last week that came along to do their National Pool Lifeguards qualification. And I'll give you the short story. One of them swam probably about 12 metres, and then I had to get him to the side because he couldn't swim any further. And he was actually gone out of his depth. Another one swam a length and a half and then had to stop. I think that may have been a little bit to do with COVID and not swimming for a while. But I had one complete non-swimmer who did not have a clue. I don't think she'd actually ever been in the pool. I had another lad who was probably 3 times my size, so enthusiastic, completely unaware of water safety awareness. He got in and he did a form of doggy paddle for about 3 metres and then managed to grab the side. And I had another one that was probably water safe, but she was able to swim very leisurely to the deep end in a breaststroke type fashion. But what really struck me was 4 out of the 5, if they had been in the situations we're going to talk about now, I wouldn't like to say they would have the skills to get themselves out of danger, which really, we talk about school education, but I saw the result of that not happening. So it does beg the question, is where was their primary school swimming education? And that's really kind of brought home to me how important this sort of information is. So bearing that in mind, one of the things I bet they didn't know and don't know are the 4 key water safety messages. So if you fall in, float, breathe, relax. Always swim with an adult. Always swim in a safe place. And this one is of most interest to me, just personally, is if someone else is in trouble, call 999. Many times, as I'm sure you're aware, is when you do swimming water awareness and you say, what would you do if your friend's in trouble? They normally say jump in and, get them out, which doesn't help. Sorry, that's my watch talking to me. Right, so these are SwimPix cards that you could use for illustrations to educate children. So we've got things about, let's look about the home. So we do have fish ponds that can be a problem. And the message we need to mention here is to stay away from the edge. One of the things that does come into my mind is if children are playing with a ball, for example, nearby, and then it falls into the fish pond, and then they may go. So our key sort of water safety message really there is not so much swim with an adult, but actually make sure that an adult is nearby. We've also got unknown depths of a fish pond, and also there's lots of weeds that they could get tangled up in. This one here, things like paddling pools in the summer and baths can be a real danger. So there should always be an adult present, and I think it's important children know that. So perhaps not enter the paddling pool if their mum's gone in to get a drink or something like that. We do need to treat shallow water with respect because babies can drown in 2 centimetres of water. And obviously you've got the slippery surface hazards. And the one that does worry me is children being left in the bath in the house on their own without adult supervision. So I think that's the one that we need to ensure children know. So let's go a little bit further, home and school. So we've got this picture here that shows a frozen lake. Nearby me, a lake that's actually very shallow was frozen over a couple of years ago, and unfortunately someone did fall through it, and they did die. And that's brought that home to me, how important it is that education is stay off the lake. You know, if it's frozen, I know it looks fun, but the dangers, it could even be that you slip on the bank and fall in. Next month, I will talk about the techniques of self-rescue as to how to get yourself out of that situation. But again, what we need to educate is stay off the lake when that happens. Same with riverbanks, maybe more in the summer where children, year 6 are the ones that come to mind, where perhaps they're allowed out without their parents and they're making their own decisions. So on that note, stay clear of riverbanks. There'll be steep, unknown water depths. The water may be cold. And again, we need to look at these 4 key water safety messages, and the one that keeps sticking out for me, most children have got mobile phones. Call for help if there's a problem. Don't try and do your self-rescue. We've got things like canal locks. Again, I've got a really quite sad story to tell you, but unfortunately it is reality. Is when I was very young, I went on holiday with my mum and dad, very keen boat people. And I remember going on a canal holiday, and I do remember that there was a young child of 3 pulled out of a canal lock. And I do remember, it's a very strong memory, where this child was at the pub on a river bank near a canal, and they had a 3-year-old, and they, obviously having a nice time, ended up not supervising the child, who managed to have no life jacket on, managed to get into the pool and pulled under by the canal lock. So I think from our point of view, we need to make sure that we make it cool to wear a life jacket. There are strong currents, again, unknown depths, and it's the currents that's the problem. Doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are. And I think that's important as well, that we get that education across. As well as boating on lakes, which happens a lot in the summer. Could be caught in the reeds, rocks at the bottom, again, unknown depths. The key thing there is a lake, and also be with an adult. So going back to that 4 key water safety message, we do need to make sure that they understand that. So currents, what I quite like about this card here is that the swells do kind of show what the water would look like. So I think that's quite a good way, rather than just talk about a current without a visual. I think that really helps. I think the education here for me would be, you know, again, wear a life jacket around that time, fast moving cold water. So swimming against that isn't going to work. So again, the main thing would be to be away from the riverbank. Don't try and investigate so that you don't slip in. Cold water shock is something I don't think children really know about or are aware about. And this actually, again, I've got another little story for you. So a few years ago, and I classed myself as a pretty good swimmer. I jumped in it was actually a sort of man-made kind of rock pools and sort of place that I went on a holiday, and I jumped off of quite a high rock into some extremely cold water, and when I hit, my body did go into cold water shock. And where it says unable to feel arms and legs due to coldness, I can honestly say I came up, my breath was taken away, and I actually felt like I couldn't move my arms and legs. So this 4 key water safety message here, this one here, if you fall in, float, breathe, relax. Because with that, one of the educations we need to give over is that if you end up in that situation and you can't feel your arms and legs, you need to lay on your back and you need to breathe so that you can make the right decisions as to what you're going to do, so panic doesn't set in. So again, I think that's actually really important education that we can give without actually being at the pool. So the next one, and probably more, these last ones are more to do with the beach, really. So here you can see we've got the beach lifeguards. We're going to talk about the flags in a moment. You know, it's safe to swim between the red and the yellow flags. And also here, thinking about, have we got some kind of buoyancy aid on? I've put life jacket there, but it could be simple as armbands or a bodysuit of some kind. As we all know, when we're at the beach, you can quickly be taken out of your depth. The water can be cold and can cause a problem. Waves, exactly the same. It's a strong current and can move you away from safety. I expect we've all been on holiday where you've gone in to the sea and then you've come out 100 meters to your left or your right of where your sunbed is, and you don't know where you're going. So children need to be aware of that, particularly if they're going on inflatables or things like that. Again, so it's making them aware. So the last two are riptides. Again, I think this visual is really helpful to kind of show them what it looks like. If they get caught in the riptide, the speed they would go out of their depth would be quite amazing. We'll talk about self-rescue next month, but they need to sort of be aware of those. So again, life jacket, buoyancy aid, the water is moving exceptionally fast. The tides, I've got another kind of quite sort of sad story here. There was a few years ago, some of you might know, there were I think it was 5 Asian boys that were sort of in a place where the tide was going to come in, and because the sand, if you like, sort of dipped and went up and down when the water came in, they became out of their depths and they drowned. So this is so important that they do know when the tide will be high and low. They do need to stay alert, not sit down and fall asleep, because that's where it can be a problem. Rapid water depth changes, so they can learn about that, and they may become stranded. So again, is there a lifeguard? Is it always swim here in a safe place? So they need to check those things out, hopefully with an adult before. So there's the 13 different areas that we've spoken about. So the last thing before we go into a little breakout room to perhaps discuss that, how we can teach that a little bit further, is I'm sure you know these beach flags, but I think they can be used in lots of different games in swimming, whether it's learn to swim or whether it's actually school swimming. So you could do something like, when you show the red flag, they could be floating as if they're resting on the beach, or you could perhaps ask them to swim and climb out so that they know there's no swimming. If you show them the red and yellow flag, maybe they could swim about a little bit. If you show them the hard craft zone, they could move to a different part of the pool, perhaps where it's safe to swim. And maybe offshore winds, maybe they could tread water, or they could put their hand out or their finger out just to check the direction of the wind. So there's kind of lots of ways that we could teach that. So what I'd like you to do now is, if possible, can you take a picture with your phone of this slide? Because if you go into rooms, we're just going to do room 1 and room 2. So if you go into room 1, what I want you to think about is just pick a couple of these, because there's too many. We'll be here till 4 o'clock otherwise. Just pick a couple and think about different activities that you could do with children to help them learn water safety awareness. Now that could be either wet PE, which means in the water, dry PE, which means it could be in the hall, or perhaps outside in the playgrounds, or perhaps in the classroom. If you go into room 2, I want you to design or have a sort of little brainstorm about how you could teach the beach flags, or there's something you might be able to do that you can share with others. Again, maybe in the pool, dry PE, or in the classroom. Okay, so I'm just going to give you another few seconds, if you like, to take a picture of that. And the rooms will be labelled. Lorna will label the rooms, room 1 or room 2, so that you'll know which one you're going to go to.
Mainly sort of like, there's only one way on poolside. The main one, sort of like where you're standing in a circle and you're running around behind each other and you're trying to make the water go faster and faster and then quickly turn direction. And that gives you an idea of what riptides or different currents and things like that feel like. And
Plus, it's
another
really
one,
fun, isn't it, as well? You know, they'll love doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
quite often you will sort of like lose your footing a little bit, and you know,
Yeah.
at least if it's in a controlled environment, you understand how it would feel if you were literally, you know, caught in it properly. Sort of like sitting on the side. I mean, I don't know if you'd all have life jackets on, but you suppose you've got to pretend that you've got one on, possibly, and you're pretending to row a boat, and then you're falling, and sort of like different ways of how you're going to react in the water, whether you're going to sort of like float on your back or try and swim back to the side.
Yeah.
You know, those sort
I
of
suppose
things.
what you could do, I've done it in the past, is you could use noodles as a life jacket, and sometimes you can put them
Yeah,
around your neck, and you know, sort of,
yeah,
you get
yeah.
like cross them in the front. That sometimes works. And I think the other thing that was worth considering is children, even sort of non-swimmers, having t-shirts on in the pool. So, because I think it's, you know, we always tend to do that with the better swimmers, but what worries me is the better swimmers will probably cope. It's your non-swimmers and your weak swimmers
Yeah,
that it would actually be more of an issue with. So have that in a controlled environment, as you said, Sharon, but
yeah.
maybe try this with a kind of a t-shirt on. Yeah, so there's just an
I
idea
mean,
you could
obviously,
use that.
we can't do that one at this precise moment in time because we're not even allowed to touch the kids, are we? You know,
No,
as it
absolutely, yeah,
stands in a minute. But
yeah,
yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. Okay,
Um,
sorry, carry on.
oh, and the other one that we came up with was you get those weighted strips that you
Yeah,
put into the water. Sort of, so if you started by being on side, kicking your legs, making as much splash as you possibly can, obviously that gets them moving about and everything. And then you're going to try and swim through them. So it like be like swimming in amongst any reeds and you know that sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I know that's a great idea. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
kind of brings that to life a little bit, doesn't it? And again, it's just perhaps experiencing what it's like. Yeah, that's great. Does anyone want to add anything from to that, even from the other group? Or okay, so I'll just add a little bit on that. So most of those were sort of in the pool, but if you think about school swimming particularly, some of those things could actually be taught in the classroom. You know, maybe sort of talking about them. And if you do have the SwimPix cards, you've got visuals there to sort of show what you mean. They could go into groups and discuss, well, what do they think the dangers would be? Yeah, what would they do? What 4 key water messages would they use? Because then they're kind of thinking about that all the time. Um, and maybe when you're doing those activities you've spoken about, the rapids, is you could have the 4 key water safety messages and say, right, which one would you use? Your friend's fallen in, what are you going to do? Which one would you pick? So that they're kind of, because it's solutions, isn't it, that we want. So I think that's the important thing about embedding that, is the solution that's important. So yeah, so maybe even at the beginning of your swimming lessons, once, you know, maybe each week over the summer, pick one awareness to be thinking about, and what key water safety message would you use? Yeah, just to maybe just start, you know, getting in there. Because this guy I was telling you about, Shooter's Hill, honestly, it was huge. It was enthusiasm, nearly knocked me over. But you know, you can tell when you've been a swimming teacher a while, you can't swim. Jumped in, didn't even think about it, laid on his front, didn't even think about it, sort of had a go, and he was swimming like this, literally, with his elbows up. And thank goodness he kind of swam towards the side. Otherwise, I was going to be getting in, because he had no idea how to stand up, but he hadn't thought about it. He just had a go. you think that's great in a safe environment, but if you'd been at the beach in the sea, it's really quite scared me, I have to say. So yeah, so build it in. But thank you for that. So who's going to feedback on the beach flags? Give some ideas on beach flags.
Hello, it's me. Me, Oriana. Well, we discussed how many activities we can do. I am a PE teacher, so I work in the school. And just as I say, we can do coloring, just to recognize the color of the different flag. One of my colleagues was talking about they went to the beach and check the different flag on the beach. The other could be just some games where you can maybe say the meaning of the flag, and we have the flag in different places, and the children run to recognize the flag and the color. The other is, well, I think it could be good to do a PowerPoint presentation with different things at the beach and see if the children can recognize the flag.
Yeah,
so
what it means.
It's a lot of activity we can do really to try to explain this situation with the flag and the safety at the beach. You know, it's like we know exactly if it's a red flag, no way we cannot go in to the water. So it's just, that is the point, to try to the children recognize and the parent when it's safe to go into the water.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your colouring in idea. That's quite, because that's quite
one of my colleagues say that.
Yeah, but it's actually because they've got time to kind of digest the information. So I think that's a lovely idea. You know, and sort of going, we do actually in the pack, the SwimPix packs, we do have the flags with what they mean. And in the self-rescue award, in the school pack, we actually have them. It just says beach flag, so you can use them for questioning exactly what you've just sort of said. So that should work, you know, quite well. So hopefully that's kind of just giving you sort of something a little bit to think about, because I think water safety does start with awareness, and if they have that awareness, that in itself might save their lives. And you know, and the last little thing I will, a friend of mine teaches schools, and I can't quite get my head around this comment. They've booked, you know, we've had a year off swimming really, and the children, they decided because they could all swim, some of them only 5 meters, the teacher didn't want to bring them the last 2 weeks because they felt English and maths they needed to be in a classroom doing English and maths. And you're just thinking, for me, water safety awareness saves their life. You know, English and maths they can do for the rest of their life, but it's so important. And I think as swimming teachers, we need to try and get that education out, particularly to the schools, how important and perhaps how easy it is just to give them that awareness, which is really what today was about. So so I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly have. And if you want to join next month, sorry, we're going to do something very similar, but I'm going to talk about self-rescue. So actually how they can self-rescue themselves out of a frozen lake if they do find themselves in that situation. So that's what I'll be doing. So if you're not signed up, just sign up in the same way. And have a lovely rest of your Thursday.
What time was that one again?
It's exactly the same time each month. All right, so it's going to be 1:45 till 1:15. And as I say, that's next month's sort of little half an hour where we can get together and have a chat. And
the 17th, wasn't it?
It is. Just bear with me just a second. It's the 17th of June. Yeah, 17th of June. All right, so have a lovely Thursday. If you want to stay and chat, I'm here, so I could be here for another few minutes, so feel free, but otherwise have a lovely day.
Did you say you was going to put your website up?
Yeah, I can do it. Well, let me do it for you. There you go. Can you see that? So it's just here. So if you go on to there, and then you can have a look. The best place to look is in the shop, and that's where all the information is. But if you need to, there's sort of 3 different packs. So it would kind of depend on what you were sort of after, really.
Okay.
If you,
Yeah,
if
I
you
mean,
need,
you know, it's all right following the ASA course, you know, 1 to 7 stages and all that sort of thing. But you know, if we can sort of like with these help within that setup as well, that'd be good.
absolutely. But
Okay,
actually in that pack, Sharon, so if you bought the Learn to Swim pack, what that would give you is all your Learn to Swim outcomes, but there's also a water safety set in there separate.
Right.
So again, so you can sort of use that. If you wanted more water safety things, then it would be the schools pack that you would need.